Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to reveal my Nebraska head coaching big board. Top 5 coaches I would look at if I am the University of Nebraska. Obviously, this next hire, extremely critical for Nebraska football after the epic failure, the Mike Riley saga, the Scott Frost situation. They need to hit a home run with this coaching hire, and I've got my top 5 names for Nebraska, which, guys, remember, it still is a very good job. You're getting major support. Nebraska can definitely lure a big-name head coach, in my opinion. With the shifting Big Ten, it's going to get tougher. They're probably eliminating divisions, so it's only going to get harder for Nebraska. They've got to hit a home run with this hire. So coming in at number 5, it is the interim head coach, Mickey Joseph. Needs a good finish to keep his job, beat Oklahoma, and make a bowl game. He is the former LSU wide receiver coach. So Mickey Joseph, when it comes to these interim head coaches, normally that's all they really are. They finish out the season, they hire a new coach. That's what we expect Nebraska to do. But of course, this all depends, if Mickey Joseph can rally the troops and really have this Nebraska team playing inspired football. He could potentially take the job. Beating Oklahoma is a very tough task this week, although I think Nebraska is only like 11-point underdogs. They're at home. So I don't know. It could certainly happen. It's not, totally crazy, but they would have to make a bowl game, and he would have to really prove himself for Nebraska to roll with the interim head coach. I would put the chances of that very low. But of course, this is a situation where you really can't predict it. It just depends what happens on the field. How does the locker room react? How does he coach? How is he as an in-game coach? And then you've also got to evaluate him as a recruiter, hiring assistants, things like that. A lot of speculation possible with Mickey Joseph going from interim to the actual head coach. He would need a really good finish to the year. Coming in at number 4, Deion Sanders. So guys, if I'm Nebraska's AD and Deion Sanders calls me today and said I want the job, I would be like, it's yours, done deal. Don't forget to bring Travis Hunter. But no, Deion Sanders, superstar candidate, elite recruiter. With how NIL is impacting college football, Deion at an FBS Division I school, it would be ridiculous. Amazing for recruiting. And then you've also got unlikely to accept. I do think Deion Sanders ends up at FSU next year if he leaves Jackson State. But again, guys, kind of a long shot candidate. If Deion leaves Jackson State, I'm expecting him to go to Florida State, not Nebraska. But it's a situation, I would look into it. I would see if he's interested. I would put out some feelers due to his ability to recruit, the NIL stuff. He's a perfect fit for modern college football as a head coach, and he would do damage at Nebraska in terms of recruiting. In my opinion, Deion Sanders, the number 4 candidate on my big board. Number 3, Urban Meyer. So Urban is a total risk. Obviously, he's had insane success at the college level. And then you've got the public problem with Urban. All of the incidents last year in Jacksonville. To me, Urban Meyer is a risk that Nebraska cannot take. I understand people are going to say 82-9 at Ohio State, 2 national championships at Florida, the success at Utah, turning Alex Smith into the number 1 overall pick. I understand all of it, but this is a different time at this point with Urban. You look at his last few years at Ohio State, the game, at least in terms of offense, seemed to be passing him by a little. He didn't want to, stop playing JT Barrett. It ends up causing Joe Burrow to transfer. Dwayne Haskins only plays a year at Ohio State. It was a complete debacle. He totally mismanaged the quarterback situation. I love Urban as a coach. He's an absolute legend of the college game. That's why I've got him at number 3. And if you are Nebraska and you're desperate for success, he is a guy that you could potentially look at. But I just think with the way Nebraska football is right now, They know they have to hit a home run with this next hire, and Urban might be a risk they simply cannot afford to take. I think Urban and Deion Sanders are interchangeable at number 3 and number 4. Both are very low odds, but they're guys that I would 100% be interested in. They would turn heads if either of them ended up at Nebraska. Number 2, it's Matt Campbell. So guys, right now, Matt Campbell is the odds-on favorite to be the Nebraska head coach. There's been reports out of Nebraska that they want Matt Campbell. There's been reports, out of Iowa State that Matt Campbell would be interested in the Nebraska job. Matt Campbell is kind of like the white whale of college football head coaches. Every year, he's rumored somewhere. Just, this past offseason, Jim Harbaugh possibly going to the Vikings. Would Matt Campbell end up at Michigan? There were rumors surrounding that. You take a look, he is the safe choice. He's kind of the over. What he's built at, Iowa State has been impressive. Although last year, I would say, kind of took some shine out of his head coaching ability. Iowa State was ranked number 7 in the preseason AP poll. They ended up starting the season 3-2 and really got, I think they might have been 3-3 at one point. They ended up making a pretty good bowl game. I think they lost to Clemson in a good bowl game, but it was not the season many people expected. But you have to understand, what was Iowa State football before Matt Campbell and what are they right now? It's very clear and obvious Matt Campbell has built sustained success at Iowa State. Every year they're at least an 8-win team. That's a major improvement for their program, and that could be the stability that Nebraska football is looking for. You're constantly at least winning 8 or 9 games. You're going to have a much better infrastructure at Nebraska. You're going to get much better fan support at Nebraska. You're going to get more money for recruiting at Nebraska. There's going to be more appeal. You would think Matt Campbell, he's going to get way more money if he goes there. And obviously Nebraska has the money. They paid the full $15 million buyout for Scott Frost when they could have waited a month and cut that buyout in half. So they certainly have money for a head coach. Matt Campbell, I would say, the odds-on favorite right now. We know that could change depending on what Mickey Joseph does, depending on what some of these other coaches do with the whole carousel. But at what point, if you are Matt Campbell, do you think, at this point, I've done all I can do at Iowa State? Maybe he loves Iowa State so much he wants to stay there, but it just seems like if there was a time to jump, Iowa State's kind of dead in the water in terms of trying to take it to the next step. It's very tough because you're limited with recruiting and things like that. Is it time to really go to a program like Nebraska where you could get more money, more support? That is why I think Matt Campbell is interested in Nebraska. That is why I think Nebraska is interested in Matt Campbell. Safe choice, stability, sustained success at Iowa State. He would be a good choice for Nebraska. And the number 1, it would be Luke Fickell. That is the blank check hire. You give him whatever he wants. It's a major long shot. My speculation on Luke Fickell, is he waiting for Ohio State? So, he'd probably have to wait a little bit considering Ryan Day is there, and I don't see Ryan Day leaving Ohio State until he at least wins 1 national title. But the speculation from me would be Ryan Day ends up winning a national title. He seems to be more suited for the NFL anyways in terms of his offensive mind, the quarterback guru, pairing him with a franchise quarterback the way they do with the NFL. I also think Lincoln Riley is going to be an NFL head coach. He probably also wants to win a college ring first. But let's say Ryan Day wins 1 national title and says, I want to go to the NFL. Luke Fickell, I think, would be the guy for Ohio State. Guys, if Luke Fickell wins 10 games this year with this Cincinnati roster, I know it's not a great schedule, but Luke Fickell is like a top 5 coach in college football. What he's built at Cincinnati, and I know they lost week 1 to Arkansas. It was a competitive game, but he is a really, really good coach. Really good coach. And if I'm Nebraska, I'm desperate. I'm doing whatever I can to hire this guy. It's a long shot. It's probably not going to happen. You give him whatever he wants. You say, we're not firing you. We're going to leave you alone. What you've built at Cincinnati, it's impressive. Notre Dame wanted him. Depending on what happens with Ryan Day, I don't know if he's waiting for Ohio State to open up. But again, that could be a while. Does he really want to wait that long and stay at Cincinnati? But then, of course, you've got the other factor. Cincinnati is now going to be in a Power 5. They're joining the Big 12. So that would, help him possibly stay at Cincinnati with them becoming a Power 5. So overall, guys, my top candidates, Gary Patterson, not in here. There's some other coaches. Mark Stoops, not in here. I think those are linear hires. I think they need someone like a Deion Sanders. Urban Meyer's a major risk. Matt Campbell, I think pretty much everyone within the college football world would consider a good hire. Of course, the issue with that is everyone considered Scott Frost a good hire coming off his unbeaten season at UCF. But it is what it is. You really don't know what these coaches are going to do. And then Luke Fickell is the grand slam. So, guys, we will see what happens when it comes to Nebraska football. Of course, they've got a major game against Oklahoma this week. We'll see what Mickey Joseph can do. Can he inspire that Nebraska team to put together a good performance? Again, Oklahoma only 11.5-point favorites. They struggled a little bit last week with Kent State. So we'll see what happens. Luke Fickell is my number one choice if I am Nebraska. If I can't get him, I will settle for Matt Campbell. At this point, Urban is too big of a risk. I think Deion's too much of a long shot. If Deion leaves, I see him going to Florida State. It makes too much sense. And then Mickey Joseph, the interim. So guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.